Hi everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Chelsea and I'm a prospective student advisor. So I'm sorry we couldn't host you here on our beautiful campus tonight like we normally would, but thank you for joining us from home. Tonight I will go through some practical tips for you for your application and your transition to university. So I'll include some basic information on pathways to consider for your entry into your preferred course, right through to day one of orientation. And then we will switch through to some current students and we'll hear from them some tips and a bit about their story into university. As we go through tonight, please feel free to include any questions that you might have by using the chat function, and we'll do our best to address all of your questions throughout the evening. So I'll get straight into the pathways information. So there's a multitude of pathways for you to gain entry into university. And what we will consider you on is whatever you are the strongest applicant within. So you'll be able to see on our screen here a list of about 5 different categories that you might fit into. So apply with as many as you can and we will do the rest on assessing how competitive you might be. So the 3 main pathways for adult entrance are the Foundation Studies program, the STAT, and also via TAFE. So I'll go through each of those separately in a moment, but I just wanted to touch on your previous schooling and any previous study that you may have completed previously. So we are able to use your school results, whether that was last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It will never expire until you have studied more than 2 years of full-time university. So if you have a Year 12 result, make sure you pop that in your application. Likewise, if you have studied at university before, it doesn't matter if you didn't complete the qualification, but if you pop that into your application, we'll be able to assess your grades. You might hear a reference to a grade point average or a GPA, and we'll be able to assess you based on that method as well. We do have a new pathway program called the Military Academic Preparation Program, and if this is relevant to you, so whether you are a current or a previous serving person in the military, then we are able to look at a different pathway option to you. So if that's relevant, please let us know and we'll be able to help you out for your individual circumstance afterwards. So going through the Foundation Studies program, you apply for this program direct to Flinders University. There's no need to pay for an application through SATAC if you are considering this method of entry into university. So it's essentially a 4-month preparation program. It's entailed of 4 different subjects based on literacy, academic writing, and a little bit of numeracy, as well as some course investigation. So we will help you look through and navigate some courses to make sure you're getting the best start in university as possible and you're selecting the right match for you in terms of what course to choose. Since 1983, when this program began, over 5,000 students have been successful in gaining a place to university. And on completion of this course, you are guaranteed entry to around 10 different courses at Flinders Uni, and a lot of these are pathway programs onto the more competitive degrees. So throughout this program, you'll also receive a score, and we will assess you based on that score for entry into a competitive course. So it's free. There's also some free application benefits that you will have as well for applying for the real course that you're hoping to get into. So make sure you chat with us and we'll give you some more information tailored towards what you're hoping to study. Moving on to the Special Tertiary Admissions Test. So you may have heard reference to the STAT before. Essentially, this is a aptitude test, so there's no real study or general knowledge that you need to brush up on to perform well in this test. There are some sample questions that you can practice with on the ACER website. So if you Google ACER STAT, they will come up for you. You apply for this STAT through your SATAC application. So on your SATAC application, there'll be a section that will ask you if you would like to sit the STAT. Tick yes or no. If you select yes, then a drop-down menu will come down and you can select the time and date that you would like to sit the test. There is a cost for this. It's around $140, I believe, for mid-year entry. And you can use this for all courses at Flinders except for medicine, optometry and some of our honours programs. So once you have your score out of 200, give us a call and we'll be able to let you know what score you might need to aim for the preferred course that you're hoping to get into. We'll let you know what score it cut at for semester 1 this year, just to give you an idea of how competitive you might be. The third main pathway to university at Flinders here is through TAFE. So you might have already completed a TAFE qualification. So we will assess anything from a Certificate 3 and above for some of our competitive courses. If you have completed a Certificate 4 or above, then you may qualify for guaranteed entry. So the higher the level of your TAFE qualification, the more courses you'll have guaranteed entry into. We have a list of those on our website at flinders.edu.au/TAFE link, and you can look up the particular course that you're hoping to gain entry into and see what level of qualification you require for guaranteed entry. Having said that, if your TAFE qualification is lower than what the guaranteed entry says, you can still apply for competitive entry for that course as well. And importantly, it doesn't need to be in a relevant area of study. We have students here who completed a Certificate 4 and an apprenticeship in hairdressing straight after school. They were happy in a career in hairdressing for about 5 or 10 years and they decided on a career change, and they used that Certificate 4 to get into a Bachelor of Science here, and they've changed to studying in science, a completely different career change. So that's important to keep in mind. There's other methods of study as well through TAFE that we have partnerships with. So if you are sort of thinking you might like a shorter degree and would like to just commit to a Certificate 4 to start with in, say, business, you can do so and complete a diploma in business, and that will give you guaranteed entry and credit towards a business degree here at Flinders. So there's one more different style of learning that we have integrated with TAFE that I'll quickly tell you about, and that's called the Dual Awards. So this is more for areas within, say, the creative fields. So we have some programs in visual arts or fashion or costume design, and within your first year, you're mainly based on campus at TAFE in the Adelaide College of the Arts, because you're completing a Certificate 4 and you do 1 or 2 university topics in that year. And as you progress through your bachelor degree, you pick up more university studies and work on your major fashion project or art project. So it just depends upon the method of study which you prefer, and I guess the time commitment that you're able to commit to. So whether you want to do that bite-sized qualification first or whether you want to go into the full 3-year degree. I have some key dates on the screen there for you, so feel free to take a screenshot here and refer back to it later. But the applications for semester 2 are currently open and they will close at this stage on Monday the 29th of June. So make sure you get your application in as soon as possible, but particularly before midnight on the 29th of June. And that will then let us do the assessment for your application and hopefully make you an offer ready for orientation week, which will begin on the 20th of July. And that's a really fun, no stress week for you to get orientated with the campus. You can meet your teachers, meet other classmates in your course, and do some tours and social activities as well. And then your classes will begin on the 27th of July. Now, some courses aren't always available for mid-year entry, so if your course only has the 1 intake per year, then you would be looking at semester 1. Those applications aren't open yet. They will open on the 3rd of August this year. Make sure you apply by the end of September to avoid the late fee. But again, have a chat with us in regards to your personal situation and we'll give you some more information and guidance. So in regards to the application process, I thought I might just show you the screenshot of what the SATAC website looks like. If you're hoping to apply for an undergraduate degree, which is our bachelor degrees, that's the first degree that you study at university, then you would click the blue button. If you are interested in applying for a postgraduate degree, which is the graduate certificates or masters, then you would click the purple button there on the screen. I'll let you know a little bit about how the preferences and offers will work within your application. So your preferences is where you put in all the courses that you're hoping to apply for. So we always recommend placing the course that you are really hoping to gain an entry into as your first preference. And then it's really important to consider some backup options as well. So when SATAC go through your offers, I'll show you in a moment what responses you will have, but they will go through the first preferences first. If you're not eligible for an offer for your first preference, that's when they'll start going down your list of preferences to your second through to your sixth option until you're eligible for an offer. So with the offer dates for semester 2 this year, the next offer rounds available will be on the 4th of June. So if you already have an application in at the moment, you may receive an offer in your inbox tomorrow. Or if you are about to submit an application, you might receive a later offer in one of the later rounds on the 18th of June or the 25th. And from the week beginning the 2nd of July, offers will be made twice weekly on a Tuesday and Thursday. I'm letting you know this information so that you know when to check your inbox, because sometimes the offers go to a junk mailbox, so make sure you're checking that. And your offer will come from SATAC, not from Flinders University. Now, I referenced responding to your offer. So SATAC will email you your offer and they will automatically accept your offer on your behalf if you're given your first preference. If you're offered your second to sixth preference, there's a number of options that you can select from in response to that offer. So we always recommend you either accept your offer or accept but wish to be considered for a higher preference. If you're hoping to defer and start your study in 2021, you will still need to accept your offer, and then when you're directed to the student system on the Flinders portal, that's where you can defer your place and we'll guarantee you that spot for 2021. Getting started, I already mentioned a few things that happen on orientation week, or O week as it's affectionately known as. So this is where you can take some campus tours and get to know where all the support services are, where the library is, where all of your classes might be, as well as attending some course information sessions and meeting your tutors, your lecturers, your classmates, and usually there's a free lunch in there as well. So there's a number of clubs and societies that students can sign up for during this week, and they'll all be showcased in the hub, which is in the main plaza area for the students to access. You can sign up for the gym, you can hear about some study abroad programs and things like that. So obviously at the moment study abroad has been paused, but you need to be studying for 1 year to be eligible for this program. So by the time you guys get there, they'll be back open again, I'm sure. I'm crossing my fingers that you guys will be able to experience that as well, because it's a fantastic opportunity and a great experience to build into your degree. So sometimes when you begin university, it might not be what you expected in terms of the time commitment, or the course might not be exactly what you expected it to be either. So it's important to know that at the beginning of semester, you have a bit of a trial period. So we encourage you to enrol in as many topics as you think you might be able to manage time-wise, and you can always tweak that before the census date if it is too much. So enrol in as many topics as you can. Study is very flexible. You can enrol in as many topics as you like, and I'll go through that in a bit more detail in a moment. But if the course isn't quite what you imagined it might be, or if you wanted to extend a particular area of study, chat to us and we can go into changing what degree you're in, and we'll modify the program for you so that you don't lose as much time if you were to change your degree. So just speak with us and touch base, and we can always look into changing your course. Full-time versus part-time study, as I mentioned, is very flexible. The typical full-time study load is 4 subjects a semester. Part-time study load can be anything from 1 to 3 topics a semester. We are told that 3 topics is considered full-time as far as Centrelink purposes go, so that might be something you would like to keep in mind. Here's just an example of what study hours you might be required to be on campus for if you were to study. So we've used social work as an example here. The top line is a full-time study load. So you can see for each subject there, you might only be on campus for 3 or 2 hours a week. And usually the lectures are recorded and available online. So if you're needing to manage family, sport, work in with your study, this just gives you a bit more of an idea of how many hours you'll be required on campus. And then we've also just given you a part-time example as well. So you would just enroll in 2 topics and then only have 5 hours on campus to navigate around. With the uni costs, if you are an Australian citizen or humanitarian visa holder, you're able to defer the cost of your course, and you don't pay any of that back until you earn over the threshold, which is just over $50,000. You defer that to your HECS help loan using your tax file number, so that's all you need to be able to complete those forms. If you are a New Zealand citizen or a permanent resident, you still apply as a domestic student, but you do need to pay those amounts up front, and I'll show you what they are. And just a few other things that our students have given the heads up on in terms of other costs might be your parking, but also some textbooks, maybe some field trips, which would be a one-off cost, but a lot of it's included in your fees for the degree. For the student contribution amounts, quite a lot of people usually ask how much the course is going to cost. The government basically decides on that, on how much your degree will cost you, based on priority areas. So a priority area example would be education or nursing. So they actually subsidise quite a hefty cost of the course, part of the course. So each year, your student contribution amount is just over $6,500. Right through to the next band, like the end band, which is band 3, and that's based on the potential earning capacity, such as a lawyer or a doctor, which is usually quite high in comparison. So they're a bit more expensive at just over $11,000 a year. If you need more information, as I said, the government depicts all these costs, and you can see some more information on the website on the screen. In terms of scholarships, these can be awarded on quite an individual basis. So the best bet is for you to go onto our scholarships website and tick box all of the relevant criteria to you, and then it will match you with some potential scholarships to apply for. Every year, some scholarships go without being awarded because people don't apply for them. So we definitely recommend you applying for as many scholarships as you're eligible for. You've got to be in it to win it, as they say. So please just look into which scholarships you might be eligible for. Apply and see how you go. So thank you, that's it from me. We will now invite our current students up for a bit of the Q&A panel, and we'll start addressing your questions. Thanks again so much for joining us, and we'll invite the students up. So thank you for the questions that are starting to come through. We might start off just by introducing our students who have kindly joined us tonight. So would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, my name's Alan Brayley, and I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Laws and Legal Practice.
I'm Danusia Podgorski, and I'm doing a double degree in science, so I'm doing animal behaviour and environmental science.
Cool, thank you guys. 2 very different study areas there. So we'll get to know a bit more about your pathways through the Q&A. But we've got a question from Kay. So what is a course a bachelor degree? So you'll start hearing a few different types of terminology throughout university. So if we are using any terminology that you're unsure of, please let us know. So a course is just a general reference to what you can study here at Flinders University, and a bachelor degree is the undergraduate level. So it's the first kind of step to your tertiary study. And then you might see things like a graduate certificate or a graduate diploma or master's level, and that is in reference to a postgraduate degree. So let us know if there's any other terminology you're unsure of. There's plenty of it in that presentation. So we've got another question here. When the first preference is automatically accepted, what if we are waiting for interstate offers? So each kind of state runs their offers a little bit differently. So we would encourage you to accept your offer and begin the process as though you were going to study here at Flinders. Now, I know things are a little bit uncertain at the moment in terms of COVID and whether travel might be able to happen, but we are prepared here at Flinders for semester 2 to be taught online if it comes to that. So we'd definitely encourage you to go ahead with your enrolment and plan as though you will be here from day one, and we'll work with you and with the government regulations when it comes to the time in July. So good question. Our next question is, what's the difference between a degree, a course, a preference, and a topic? So a lot of terminology here, which is absolutely fine. So different universities, just to make things really simple for you, might use different terminology as well. So a degree might otherwise be known as a course or a bachelor. There's quite a few different terms there. A course might mean a degree or a topic, but please, if you have any questions relevant to Flinders, we'll make sure that it's nice and clear for you using our terminology. A preference is what courses or degrees you would like to apply for. So in terms of SATAC, they manage all of the offers for all of the study options around South Australia and the Northern Territory. So you do one application for all the universities that come under that umbrella, and you're limited to 6 preferences there, or courses to apply for. And then finally, a topic is a subject, I guess, is the best way to describe it. So yeah, we've got quite a lot of terminology here, so please call us up on it and let us have the opportunity to explain further if we need to. So in terms of pathways, Alan, what mode of pathway did you use to get into law?
So my particular pathway, because I've done some previous study, is called a graduate entry. Graduate means that because I've graduated from a course or a degree before, I was able to use my previous scores and grades for that to gain entry. So yeah,
fantastic.
Graduate entry. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you haven't completed a course before, you're still able to use your grades from an incomplete degree to gain entry into a course as well. And Nuj, what was your pathway into university?
Yep, so it'd been a while since I had studied, so I decided to take up the foundation studies.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you did that at the TAFE campus?
Yeah, down at Noarlunga.
Yep.
So 3/4 of it is down at Noarlunga, and then we finish it up here at Flinders in the evening.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. And the time commitment for that isn't too intense, is it?
Once you come to uni, no, it's not too intense at all.
Yeah.
It's a sort of a gentle idea of coming in.
Yeah, a bit more of a supported transition.
You get an idea of what's to come.
Yeah, fantastic. So we have another question. Does a past GPA always come into play while applying if you've studied at uni before? So that's a really great question. We will always look at your grade point average from previous study if you have one. If it doesn't help you, we'll pretend it's not there. So it won't disadvantage you at any point. So as long as you've got another means of entry. So if your Year 12 results were really competitive, and then perhaps you began a university degree and didn't perform too well in it, that's to be expected if you weren't enjoying it, or if it was a rough time of your life, which happens all the time, then we will still be able to use your Year 12 result as long as you haven't studied for more than 2 years full-time at uni. So we'll always have another option for you to consider if your GPA isn't competitive. Another question is, for recognition of prior learning, does it have to be TAFE or can it be from a higher education college? Great question. So this is always awarded on a case-by-case basis, depending on what your prior learning was and the degree that you're hoping to study at Flinders. So yes, you can certainly apply for credit with a TAFE qualification or with a qualification from another registered training organisation. That's absolutely fine. Always apply and ask the question because we can kind of tailor the advice for you. Another question from Amy. How are tutorials, lectures and exams done if I'm studying online? So this has been a learning curve for all of our students here this semester, and I believe it's been running really well, and everyone's been very adaptive in changing their learning style and teaching style for the lecturers. So do you guys want to touch a little bit on Collaborate, which is a program that all of the teaching has been launched through this semester?
Yeah, sure. It's an online learning platform. I think the great thing about Flinders is kind of the transition to an online environment. It's been really great, a really smooth transition, given the fact that we had to transition quite quickly in some instances. So there's lots of support around it. I found that, I guess the thing that we were kind of most concerned about as students is kind of losing that face-to-face connection. But I mean, it's never going to be exactly the same as being in the room. But you could see, the tutor or lecturer's face on there. You could see other people in the class. You could have breakout rooms and that. So, it was. I found it quite a good experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, we've done in the science side of things. We've done a lot of the Collaborate because there's also computer labs and wet labs that we do. So there was a lot of recording of that from the lecturers, but yeah, Collaborate's worked really well, and seeing the faces of the people you know, and it's just made you feel in touch with everyone still, even though you're really not.
Yeah.
It still makes you feel like you're part of the community.
Yeah, sure. And so all of the lectures are recorded and you can kind of watch them at any time, can't you guys?
Yes.
To fit into all your other commitments and things. And then do you have an allocated time for your tutorials as like a timetable?
Yeah, we do. We have, in science, we've got the labs. They usually get broken up into groups. And so whatever you would have done if you were here at uni, you just do an online session with them. So that was computer labs and wet labs.
Yeah, cool. So you've been happy with the online transition so far, but I bet you're looking forward to coming back on campus and seeing everyone here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful campus to be on, so it's nice to be here. Another question, do student contribution payments have to be made upfront or can they be made in instalments? Great question. So you can pay upfront if you would like to, and you're only accruing the amount that you are currently enrolled in. So you might see a per annum cost for each course, but if you're only enrolling in 1 or 2 topics a semester, that's the only debt that you have accrued, but you can apply to defer that payment on your HECS. So some of you may not pay anything up front up until you earn over the threshold once you graduate. So you can tailor it. If you would like to pay up front, you can, and that can be in instalments depending on how much you're enrolled in.
There's one thing that you don't know until you're here, the student amenities fees. You can actually postpone those fees as well.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't realise that, and then come the beginning of the year, they have to pay the student amenities fees, and if you don't, you actually get locked out of the library.
Yep.
And a few other things which can be quite stressful. So there is an option to, I've done that, so I've put everything.
You deferred that payment?
Yeah, I've deferred everything. It just takes that stress off, and I don't have to worry about not being able to use the library and the services.
Yeah, perfect. Good point. Thank you. Can I do online all the course if I enrol during this period? So this may depend on your course. So if the course is available online, then you can certainly do that and complete all of the course online. If you're doing like a science-based course, then obviously we've got the fantastic labs here that you have access to, and they are obviously set up now. They're preparing for the social distancing measures and things to have in place. And so you can still come on campus and do your labs and have that experience and guidance face-to-face safely. But all of the lectures, and we are prepared if there is another outbreak for all of semester 2 to be completely online. So it's a bit of playing it by ear at the moment to see what happens. But if you would like to let us know what course you're intending on studying, we can give you a specific answer for that one. Good question. So I'll go to the next question here. How many topics do I need so I can transfer to a different course? So if, for example, this is a great example, health science to paramedics. So paramedics is a really competitive degree, and health science, you've put it perfectly, is the course that we recommend you use as a pathway into paramedics. So the point of a pathway degree is to accumulate a competitive score or a grade point average, and to accumulate a GPA, you are required to do a minimum of 4 topics. So you can either do a full-time study load in one semester, or you could do part-time for both semesters, and you'll accumulate a GPA, and you can then use that to transfer into the more competitive course that you're hoping to get into. We've got a question from Neve, read laws and legal practice. Alan, so what is the cost like for first year textbooks?
Yeah, it's not great. But what I'd have to say is that I guess the thing that I like about Flinders in general is that there's lots of support mechanisms, and certainly getting financial assistance is definitely one of those things. I made a mistake in my very first semester. I thought I was going to get in, be really diligent, contact the library, and find out what textbooks I was going to need. I got emailed a list, except that was for semester 2, not for semester 1. So I'd essentially gone out and bought all these textbooks, which weren't particularly cheap. And then it turned out that they were none of the textbooks that I needed for first semester. So I needed to actually go out and get some more. There's a number of ways that you can kind of get around that. There's they've kind of got zip money, which I know that I use. That got me out of trouble. That gave me $1,000 credit, and I could kind of pay it off. There was no fees or anything like that kind of tacked onto it. So I guess the short answer is it's definitely be prepared for it. But don't see it as a barrier, because there's lots of ways around it, and certainly you can get in touch with anybody here at Flinders to help with financial assistance. They're great with that. So
yeah, nice work. Thank you.
There's a good circle for science. I'm not sure with the legal of secondhand textbooks as well.
Secondhand stuff is great. Yeah.
So on Facebook on Marketplace, and they've got I think they've got buy, swap, sell, Flinders, full stop, and then I know there's one for science as a subject, and if you get on sort of before the semesters, you find someone who has just finished their degree and is selling a lot of, at least maybe their first year, and it's a lot cheaper, I've found. So
it is.
There's lots of different avenues. You just gotta,
And if you can kind of get in just kind of that after exam week, then when students are not needing those textbooks anymore. So if you can kind of just kind of keep an eye out for when the exams have just finished. That's when most people are getting rid of. They don't want to see the textbooks anymore, so they're getting rid of them. So it's a good time to jump on. Yeah.
Also the costs, once you've used it, you got to get the next one. So it's sort of like on sales. And I'd like to know how many students actually would go through one textbook sometimes with the old library list at the back. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Good tips. Thank you, guys. I just want to make a side note. If you have a one-on-one appointment, please feel free to jump out and head to those. We are in high demand for those appointments, so we're trying to stick to that schedule as closely as possible. So jump out if you are scheduled in. If you are on the wait list for a one-on-one appointment, we'll be contacting you personally to arrange a time to chat with you. So you haven't missed out. We will contact you and make a time to help you out as best as we can throughout the week. Okay. But in the meantime, keep your questions coming through because they're getting some great tips here from you guys, so thank you. We'll move to the next question. So when it comes to scholarships, how do they consider more financial need or academic merit? So Nuj, I know you've been overseas throughout your degree, haven't you?
Yeah.
And have you accessed any funds to help you with the trips?
Yeah,
at all?
I was speaking with Alan before. I believe that you finish your uni career, I guess you could call it, with an unofficial degree in creative writing. If there's a scholarship, just apply. Like, you'd be surprised at how many people don't think that they could get the scholarship, so they simply don't apply. If you can meet the criteria, you put the application in, because the worst they can do is say no, or you don't get the scholarship. And since I've been here, I've got a couple of scholarships.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
then to go overseas, I've accessed the overseas help loan, which you get two throughout for your, I think it's the whole life of your uni. And that's funded me to go to South Africa twice.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, what an experience.
Yeah, it was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, there are two different types. So some scholarships are awarded on academic merit, some are awarded on financial need, some don't have ties like that. So you just need to
just
apply.
Based on what council you're in.
Yeah.
And then
right.
also, speaking of that, there's there can be scholarships in the council that you live in. So it's not just at uni, there are other aspects and avenues that you can get scholarships through,
Perfect. Next question from Dan, thank you. So I'm considering studying a master's degree part-time online. Do you have any advice for experience regarding online learning? And additionally, how feasible is it to swap from part-time online to full-time in person halfway through the degree? So obviously, throughout different times of your degree, you might have different personal commitments. So perhaps, Alan, you're working at the moment, aren't you? And juggling a family and online study. Yep. So throughout your experience and perhaps some other classmates that you might have, are they balancing full-time versus part-time study?
Once again, I guess that's a really good thing about what Flinders offers is just that flexibility. So, there's, I guess the first thing is just making sure you know what your commitments are, what they are outside. In my case, it's, I've got a mortgage, I've got a young son, and I've got to try and juggle some study in that as well. So, but the nice thing about that is that you can tailor your study so that it's not encroaching on any of your commitments outside. That's what I found. So, there's flexible timetabling. There's you can so for example, if you've started like in my very first semester, I did 4 topics. That was quite challenging. So in the second semester, I dropped back to 3, and that's been much more manageable.
Perfect.
And I guess not me personally, but I've had some friends who've taken advantage of some of the summer and winter intensives, which has been really good. So let's just say that you did drop back from, say, 4 topics to 3 or to 2. You can essentially make up some of those with the summer and winter intensives. And I've had a couple of friends who've kind of capitalised on that, which has been good. But yeah, I guess it's really just important just to kind of direct it back to your question. It's just making sure you know what your commitments are, and just asking for help where you need it, because Flinders will be able to tailor a program that'll fit in with what your commitments outside are. So
yeah, sure. And just some technical advice if you are hoping to switch from online to on campus. just make sure you contact the university with your plans for that, and we'll give you specific advice depending on what course you're in. Sometimes you can simply just enrol in the on-campus version of the topic, and other times we'll need to switch you over into a different course code. So just check that with us in person when it comes to it. We will go to George's question. Is there a program starting in this July for Masters of Social Work graduate entry due to this COVID-19? Yes, so if there are any courses available and are open at the moment, we are managing all of that to be ready for online learning to make way for COVID if it's required. So yes, go ahead and apply. There's another question. Is there mid-year entry for primary education? Yes, there is. So through the undergraduate portal, you would choose the primary education, and there's a couple of different combinations that you can choose from. So again, have a look through the courses there, and we can offer some guidance depending on what you're interested in majoring in there. The next question, I'm a student currently studying in Adelaide. I like to change my program to Master of Social Work graduate entry. I'm confused whether there's a course commencing in this July due to COVID. So yes, there is a program for Masters of Social Work graduate entry. So again, if you've got any personal questions particular to a specific course, let us know and we'll look at your pathway into that and be able to advise some personal advice. Okay, so flexibility around studying with Flinders. So a lot of you are probably in a similar boat to the person who sent through this question. I have a family and full-time work commitments. If I study a Bachelor of Medical Science, do I have to be on campus? So there are some on-campus components to this degree simply because of the in-person learning and the labs and things like that. So I guess, Nuj, with the labs that you are enrolled in, how much time on campus does that take up, and is it every week or some every second week?
So that it would depend on
the topic.
The topic and what year it's at. So to give you an idea, my first semester was pretty intense. I did molecular basis of life, and so that consisted of 3 lectures a week, and then it was labs every week or second week. That was a little while ago now. I can't remember. And they go for about 2 hours. I've had some second year subjects as well. Yep. They go for 3 hours, and I think almost every subject I've had has had a lab. Yeah. So for those components, you do need to be here on site to do them. Yep. You wouldn't want to not be. Actually, they're really fun, I find anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're doing anything science, I'd say there's a fairly large portion of your study that will be will be required for you to be here on campus for labs. Yeah, and there's really no two ways around it. You can miss one, but you need to catch that up, and it's not something that you can watch a lecture and you're caught up, or a tutorial. Like if you miss a lab, you miss a lab, and you just hope that you can get some notes from your friends, but it's never like been there. This semester, what they've done is the topic coordinators and the lecturers have actually done the labs, so even though we didn't get to do them, they've done everything and walked us through it as if we were there. Yeah, so perfect. We haven't missed out, but labs are definitely something
Nothing
you need to be on campus for.
Being there in person.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to balance your own timetable. So if you were to study medical science and you had some topics like Nuj was saying that were quite intensive on campus, perhaps that semester you would drop down to doing only a couple of topics. And then the next semester, if you have topics that are more based upon independent study, then you might be able to then pick up an extra topic. So very flexible, and you guys would know there's the trial period at the start of every semester as well. So at the start, you'll get all your deadlines and assignments, won't you? And so you'll know exactly when things are due and how much you have on your plate that semester. If it's all looking too much, you've got that trial period and you can unenroll before the census date and you won't accrue any fees or grades.
I think the best thing to do is have a look at your topics and you'll get a plan that you can go by, and most people do, but you can also mix it up. Once you've learnt what you need to do for those topics, if you find that your first year you've got a lot of topics that are really intensive, you might be able to do a topic that isn't necessarily on your plan to do that semester. It might be the next semester or the next year, and it just eases it up a little bit. I know I personally now try not to have any more than 2 exams. So when I'm enrolling, I look at what's required for that topic and I try to do just 2 exams because that's just better for me to cope with the stress and the anxiety of it. So, and that's really helped, and now the anxiety of exams and everything, I'm starting to be able to, get a bit of control. And the more you go on, the more you find that, you tend to be worrying about things that, you don't really need to worry. But
it's all about gaining confidence.
You can mix it up, and the only person really, the best person to do that is yourself. So you know what your family commitments are, you know what you have work commitments, what sort of where you're at with your study, and even with your interest. You might be interested in something a little bit more this semester, and so you just mix it up and tailor it to yourself. And any questions, like I haven't had a question that hasn't gone unanswered here at Flinders. They really do anything to help you tailor it so that you can do the degree in your time and make it the best outcome for yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So another question, do we have to select internal or external candidate when submitting an application in SATAC? It really depends on the course. So a lot of the times you just apply for one main course, and then when it comes to the enrolment, you can either choose to select that topic either on campus or as an external student if that option is available for that particular topic. So sorry, that's very broad, but it will depend on the course that you're hoping to apply for. Question from Kay. I want to do some study in geography and geology. I'm interested in plants and rocks. What degree should I apply for? So science, definitely. Nuj, what's your environmental science major like?
I first enrolled in a degree for animal behaviour just because I wanted to study science, didn't really know, so I just went with something that I was interested in. And from that's come going into environmental science. And that if you were going to choose anything, that would be a really good one because you get quite a broad scope of environmental science and you can find your interest through that. And then there's some specialised courses, which is biodiversity and conservation. We have paleontology. We have a lot. I can't quite remember.
There's a huge list.
There's like marine biology, but then there's also there's another one that specialises more in, I think it's aquaculture. Yeah, so probably environmental science because it covers everything actually, from rocks to water to environmental and conservation. And I just go by what I'm interested in and then go down that line, and that's how I think it was 2.5 years in and decided to add on environmental studies as well.
Another one. Yeah, perfect. Good point. It is very flexible as well. So if you do choose a major and you're finding an interest through another topic that you didn't know existed, or developing new passions and things, that's what we're all about here, then you can tailor your degree to follow that path as you go through.
Also, Flinders tend to add new specialised courses. So you might start in environmental science and 2 years into it, a specialised course will be entered, and you decide to do that. So it's really, really flexible. Yeah.
Perfect. So Alan, I might ask you this question from our friend Jason. What do you look forward to in your next step in your career and developing in your career? And I ask you this because you've gained employment through your work experience, haven't you, in the field that you're hoping to work in once you graduate?
Yeah, I guess the nice thing about kind of coming to Flinders, because I did a bit of research into where to study. Being a mature age student, I was coming from a previous career, so I want to be job ready, and I want to get back into full-time employment as soon as possible. And that's certainly one thing that I'm looking forward to. But I think the thing that most attracted me to coming and studying at Flinders is because they actually. The learning was really tailored so that you're applying what you were learning in a practical context. And the benefit of that is that means that, when you're going and you're trying to, go for job interviews and you're trying to distinguish yourself against hundreds of other applicants, you've really got those tools, to be able to demonstrate that, you don't just understand or know something in a theoretical context. You can go into an employment and you're going to be job ready. You can kind of start working quicker, and employers are really attracted to that. Is what I found. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting full-time employment, and I'd have to say that early on, Flinders helped facilitate lots of opportunities. To start heading me down that pathway. So even after my first year, I had a clerkship in a firm, and that led to other bits and pieces, and managed to get a little bit of employment through Flinders, which is really nice as well. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a bittersweet moment when I do leave, because I've really enjoyed it here, and a couple of years down the track, if my wife lets me, I may end up by coming back again. But yeah, maybe
you can always just add another degree and do a double degree now and add a few more years.
No, I get in trouble, I reckon.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up all the questions there. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, we'll be contacting all those who missed out on a one-on-one appointment for you. And have a nice evening. We look forward to welcoming you on campus in July.